Yeah, thank you so much for the invitation and just to be in this good space with all of you. Yeah, it's been a really rough week, as you know, and I've still been trying to heal from working in white museums. I just got out like March 31st was my last day. I still have a little things to finish up, but I have had years of working in, and I just call them white museums. So that's what they are. They don't call themselves that. They like to pretend that they're called mainstream or something like that. They're white museums. They're white-led, white-centered institutions. Everybody else is called Black Museum, Latinx Museum, it's, whatever. So I've worked in those for years. My background is in art history. It's a very conservative field. I think probably most of you know that already. And when I say conservative, I actually mean more like repressive. It's very racist, very, very white field. Some kind of way I ended up working on trying to get 3 degrees in art history. Scary. And then I started working on trying to learn what curatorial work is. But actually, I should be honest that I actually study racism. I study how race operates in institutions and through representations, but also through institutions. So I kind of take a critical race theory approach and apply it to the institution. So while I've been in there, and I'm actually going to try to pull up my screen so I can start showing you some stuff. So I've been learning about how to curate exhibitions, which has been great, but I also been studying the institutions at the same time. And I thought, okay, this way they can just pay me for doing this participant observation work, even though that's not what they're thinking, that I've been doing. And I've done it for years. And one of the places I was at was Yale Art Gallery, and most recently in Cleveland. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio right now at MoCA Cleveland. And so I had a range of experiences from university galleries to in some like a University of Delaware where I'm a student, and then like Yale University, so a place with like tons and tons of money, deep pockets, and then at a place like MoCA Cleveland, a city museum. And actually all of them I've kind of found the same kind of issues, a little different because of the scale and access to resources, but really white supremacy and colonialism, of course, run through all of these institutions. So back in 2017, I had just finished a fellowship at the curatorial fellowship I was in at Yale Art Gallery. And I was there for 3 years. I got to do some good stuff. I did 2 shows, and one in particular I really loved that I worked on, civil rights photography, a show called Let Us March On. And at the same time, of course, I went through a lot of racist experiences when I was there, like a lot, in a really intense way, in ways that I actually couldn't even imagine. I come from a working class background, and being in a space like Yale University Art Gallery was just really out of my radar for even imagining what it would be like. Reporting racism, all that stuff never mattered. It actually probably just made my life harder. Every place I've gone, if I brought it up, it just, people would just deny it and act like I was crazy and all that. So I finished in July 2017. A month later, along with a friend, Mike Morawski, we started this initiative called Museums Are Not Neutral. And it's just kind of a response that we were having a conversation on social media, and we were both sick of people saying that in these museums. Like, this is a dominant rhetoric in these like white museum spaces where people will constantly say, oh, the museum is neutral, we're objective, we can't do things that are political. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense at all. Like, that's just stupid. If anybody knows the history of these institutions knows that for the most part, these museums in the United States follow a European kind of model, right? And a museum model, and that it comes out of an imperialist, nationalist kind of project. And it's continuing to do kind of colonialist violence all the time through these institutions. The fact that I was not just the only Black person, the only person of color in curatorial spaces for years in majority Black cities, that is obviously, not a neutral experience. So while the people running the institution constantly were saying that, I rejected that all of the time. And a month later, I had left, and part of my detoxing from that experience was creating this initiative. We had no idea it was going to take off. And actually, we thought it was just going to be something we would do for a little while. We just wanted to wear this statement, across our chest. And so that no one could just like put that in our face again and keep saying the museum's got to be neutral, Tanya. but it actually resonated with a lot of people across the US and across the world. It's gone global. I don't even remember how many shirts we have sold. It's a lot of shirts. We don't make money off of this. The proceeds all go to community organizations. And that was part of it, was for us to highlight that museums should be supporting their communities. They should be supporting places in the areas that they're occupying. They're often occupying forces in places. This has resonated with curators, but a lot of artists, teachers, like people are just across the field and in other sectors as well. So people in archives and libraries, all of this. And the reality is neither Mike or I are trying to pretend we came up with a concept that they're not neutral, because it's just like, it's a fact. It's just that we put it on a shirt and made a point of it. Yeah, like I said, I've kind of moved on out of, like, I finished up at a white museum recently, and through that time when I was there, I mean, it was just so many crazy things and racist stuff that was going on. I decided to kind of change. I was doing another curatorial fellowship. I changed my fellowship and made it be a residency. I just restructured it and went to the funders and was like, yeah, I'm not reporting to these people. They don't know what they're doing. And it's an extremely unhealthy and toxic experience for me. And I really think with people like Toni Morrison, this is one of my favorite quotes here, where she's talking about, you know, getting out of the thing where you're like performing for whiteness. And when Black authors start writing for their own Black communities, that's where we're really getting to the craft of writing. So I thought with somebody, you know, with Morrison and other thinkers, like, what would it mean is for me as a Black woman working in these white spaces? I'm not really trying to like emulate these people, even though that's what they think. They want me to assimilate to what they're doing. I'm not gonna do that. So how do I like create my own curatorial practice that's connecting with Black folks? I created this project, Black Liberation Center. I started it last fall. It was I considered it kind of my Maroon Society. This is what I pitched to save my own life while working in that white institution. And I drafted this project, and it's kind of been a long time in the making. I didn't have this name. In my mind for a long time. I kept thinking I'd like to work with this is somebody else. This is Audre Lorde. I like to work with Audre Lorde's kind of thinking. I started reading her work, and I kept thinking, what would it be to have an art center that works with her thoughts, like with Black feminist thoughts at the center? So to stop having that attitude of let me fix, as if you could fix a racist white colonialist institution. You can't. They're actually working perfectly fine. That's what they do. So, you know, the fact that it's violent and horrible, that is what it was designed to do, and it's continuing to do that. So a lot of folks of color, though, I think things are getting really mixed up, where many of us, unfortunately, are buying into to certain kind of language of inclusion, these regimes. So yeah, following like Audre Lorde's thought, I was like, this is what I need to be doing. Like, how do I, you know, follow a piece of my vision and move forward? So I started this project, and it has multiple components. And, you know, I got through what I changed a fellowship into a residency, a curatorial residency, I got them to fund it and pay for, you know, some of these projects while I was there. And one of the big project I did that I'm really happy with is called, it was a teach-in that we did in last December called The Art of Collective Care and Responsibility, Handling Images of Black Suffering and Death. Unfortunately, this is a topic that always remains extremely present, like every day, because people just keep, in the US, they keep killing Black people. That's what the United States does. It's a nation state. It's founded on genocide and slavery. And it's a way of policing and controlling Black people and keeping us under control. So did this teach-in, and it basically, I brought in Miss Samaria Rice, and I wanted to share some of the words she said at the teach-in real quick. So she's the mother of Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old boy who was murdered here in Cleveland, Ohio. She, that was in 2014, and she is an activist, and also the museum I was working at had really treated her quite poorly. So through the work of the teach-in and through my curatorial work, I try to work with communities and try to collaborate with people. Miss Rice is one of the people I've had the honor of working with. She said, "The death of my son has changed my life. It has woke me up in the most horrific way. America had sold me a lie. I truly believed I was an American citizen and that I was going to get justice for the assassination of my son. I did not want to allow America to tell lies to our Black and brown children. So that's why I created the Tamir Rice Afro-Cultural Center. Yeah, she is an amazing force that she has continued to go through so much violence. She shared these words. It was just 1 week after she received official notice that the US Justice Department had closed the investigation on the police officer who murdered her son. And so a week later, she came to our teach-in and she shared these words. And it's so intense. Yeah, it's a lot. She has tried to take this pain and find ways to keep kind of supporting the community and supporting Black and brown kids in particular through this art center that she's creating, cultural center. The other speaker at our first opening event was Christina Sharp. She is, you probably know her work from In the Wake on Blackness and Being and other wonderful things that she's written. Really just deep, amazing thinker. And I have studied her work for a while and have found that I'm trying to work as a curator really through her thinking. I mean, I use a lot of scholars and stuff that I try to think with their scholarship and keep it central. One of the other projects in the Black Liberation Center is this one that it's called Still I Rise. And again, this is, that might sound familiar to you. It's coming from Maya Angelou's poem, Still I Rise. And in this one, my first speaker has been Dr. Kelly Morgan. She's she's not really an art historian, right? She has a Black Studies degree, I believe, American Studies. She's a curator, scholar, and she is one of the people who kind of, she wrote a really wonderful piece that was published last June in Burn Away, where she's talking about the racism in these art museums. And she called for the, real restructuring at the Newfields Museum in Indianapolis. And just in the last month or two, they got rid of the director there. It took a while, and Kelly had been gone for months. And then the 2,000 people, months later, signed a petition letter to have him removed, and he has been removed. But these institutions, the violence in these places it's systemic. It's not about one person. The boards typically remain in power and in place, and so the usual same thing happens. Gets replicated. A lot of changes need to happen in these museums. Anyway, Kelly is this amazing person, and I have the pleasure of being friends with. In our first event, we really were talking about caring for ourselves, choosing ourselves instead of choosing to constantly with this whole fix these racist institutions things, but to choose ourselves. And it was a really wonderful conversation. I'm looking forward to do more of these kind of things. I have found the Liberation Center in some ways has been kind of hard to work on because a lot of Black women, I'm working with a lot of Black women scholarship. A lot of Black women are really tired. We're tired. I'm tired too. So I've actually had to postpone events again and again because people are like, I'm really tired. Could we do this later? And I'm like, you know what? I hear you. I'm tired too. So actually my second speaker, we had to delay her talk because she just needed time to rest. One of the other projects I've been working on is called To Be In But Not Of. This is working with the Undercommons, thinking with Stefano Harney and Fred Moten, this idea of I was thinking very much while I was in this white museum space of how I could draw resources out of the institution and put them into places, right? I've learned a lot through doing that hard project. And I was really doing it for years, but really coming out really in a more direct way in the last several months. Find that to be really hard. I think it works for things that are in some way kind of more transactional and short term versus staying in there very long as one person by yourself, unsupported. It's been kind of a nightmare, to tell you the truth. It's been a nightmare for me. I think it's helped some people, the artists I was working with and so forth. So my To Be In But Not Of program, I was particularly creating this kind of as a mentorship project, working with some young artists, young local artists in the Cleveland, Akron area, introducing them to established artists. And so Sheila Pre-Bright, Nafis White, Antoine Williams joined us for a call and really just shared a lot of really wonderful information with these two young Black women artists that a lot of times we just don't really get access to that. It was a really wonderful, fruitful, great conversation. I did not record this on purpose so that they could ask whatever they wanted and the artists could share whatever they wanted to share. And I really want to do more of that. That felt really good to me and wonderful. The other project we did was a studio visit, and I introduced Maya and Bobby to Kelly Morgan, who I just talked about. And, you know, again, we looked at their art and talked about it with them. And it was their kind of, I mean, they had done some studio visits before, but I think the first time with like a little bit more of a deeper conversation. And we're trying to do things where it's a guiding project. And in both cases, so for the artists and for the curators, mentors, everybody got paid. I was using the museum's money to pay them. So I paid the young artists really the same amount that I paid the established artists and curators for them being in this project. Really love that, to be in but not of. So I have a website. It's under this kind of Black Liberation Center. And right now the project is pretty much all just online. And I shouldn't say just, but you know, originally I was thinking I would have a center that would be a building and that was in my mind so much. But I think, you know, what I've learned is that the teaching, I mean, we drew like hundreds of people, like 400 people, over 300 people in those opening days. And people wrote to me and kept asking me, when is there going to be more, you know, and are you you know, when are there going to be the next activities? Will there be an actual physical building? I hope one day there might be a physical site, and which is what I originally thought. I also have realized that there is power actually in not having a physical site and maybe continuing to do collaborations with different artists wherever I'm located. So I'm not I moved to Cleveland just for this residency opportunity, but I probably won't be staying here. I'll probably be moving on, but I do plan to keep collaborating with different people. And, you know, I see it as something that is a fluid kind of project. And I think that's where our future is actually, is being able to stay nimble and open to relationships and not so focus on that everything has to be in these certain institutions. Like I have done the institutional curating. I show up right now at that White Museum that I was talking about. I'm happy about it in some ways, but also not happy about certain things in it. And I actually find the work that I've done with Black Liberation Center to be the work that I'm most passionate about and want to keep this going. So I just think all of us, including myself, really need to rethink a lot of times if we've got that certain conventional training about what art history is or the arts, we need to rethink that and connect with communities more and be open to these other kind of spaces. So that's the Black Liberation Center. I hope you come check it out sometime. There's a lot of materials on the site. Thank you.